Kansas meeting in Lawrence.
Landed to throw into the end zone. It is caught. Did he get a foot down? Yes, touchdown. Ben Sims, the touchdown catch. That was tight end Gavin Yates, who set up as the fullback and gets the touchdown.
Oh, hello, Matt Jones. Ouch. Off play action to R.J. Sneed with the first down across the 50. Back inside, up the sideline, R.J. Sneed. Go, Baylor, go! Sneed in for 6. Into the air. What a play by Josh Fleeks.
Abram Smith bangs into the end zone. Touchdown, Bears.
Hoping we get a little smile out of Dave Aranda after a big score there.
So they're going for it on 4th down, just off the fingertips. Abram Smith, he's over 100 yards, still on his feet, inside the 20.
To the right side, blocking for Bohannon, and he's in. Gary Bohannon covers the final 8 yards for the Baylor touchdown.
Oh, McWilliams is loose. McWilliams pushing his way in for the touchdown.
Off again to Pesci Hickson, nearly lost the ball, but he did lose the ball. I think Baylor's going to have a takeaway there. Gabe Hall recovers.
What a victory for Baylor. They come on the road in their Big 12 opener against Kansas and put up 45 points.
That's 3, baby. On to the next. On to the next. That's 3.
I had so much fun today. I had so much fun.
I did too.
I had so much fun.
Woo! So much fun. That 45-7 victory over Kansas last weekend up in Lawrence. We are going to have so much fun here today. Welcome officially to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. I am Brooke Bednarz, joined by Derek Smith and none other than the voice of the Bears, John Morris. We are so excited that you guys are out here with us on Touchdown Alley, live on KCN, ESPN 1660, or BaylorBears.com if you're unable to be here in Waco. But we have a super exciting game here today against the number 14 Iowa State Cyclones and the Baylor Bears. John, how excited are you to be back and repping some gold for
in
the
gold?
Yes.
Yes. So for those of you listening on the radio, you can't really, I don't think, fully appreciate all the gold that's out here for the gold
looks
out.
good.
If you're on TV, you need to turn the chroma down a little bit on that TV, Rocky. But there's a lot of gold, and that's fun, and it's a big game that hopefully will be close to a sellout inside McLean Stadium.
I think so. I heard that we were pretty close.
Yeah.
Speaking to the ticket office guys yesterday. So how excited are you, and how do you think that the Bears will continue to build off of that very successful and very offensively dominant game last week in Kansas?
Well, that's a great word, Brooke, in build, because Baylor up to this point has built each step in the first 3 ball games. They kind of demonstrated that they can control the line of scrimmage against Texas State, got that big win against Texas Southern, Big 12 win last week. They've continued to do those little things that Coach Aranda has preached that add up to big things, controlling the line of scrimmage, running the football, good defense. They've passed the test so far. Well, it's a big test today against number 14 Iowa State, and I'm excited to see them really, I think, rise up to that challenge.
Truthfully, I mean, Iowa State, they kind of struggled early on. They did have a big game early. Actually, their second game of the season was against an in-state rival for College game day. I'm sure everyone was able to see that. But they really bounced back last week on the road in Las Vegas playing UNLV, coming away with that 48-3 victory. Did you get a chance to kind of look over that game? And what do you expect to see from Brock Purdy and that offense heading into McLean today?
Yeah, they really got their offense going last week. They won, as you said, 48-3. Their biggest margin of win in a road game since 1923, so that's really big. And Brock Purdy did get going last week.
Yes,
he had struggled, in fact, didn't play late in the third quarter into the fourth quarter of the Iowa game, but he got it going last week. And Breece Hall is a returning all-conference, all-American running back also. So Iowa State certainly has weapons offensively, but it's that defense that is number 1 in the nation in total defense coming into this game. That's going to be the real challenge. Baylor's offense offense, which is number 1 in the Big 12, number 5 in the nation, against that offense of Iowa State.
It'll be a big test for sure, and we're going to discuss that a little bit later, sneak peek to what our Inside the Numbers segment will be. But the series history, let's talk a little bit about that. The Bears are 10-9 overall, so you got to feel pretty good, and a lot of that is right here in Waco.
Yeah, it's been a close series. I mean, there have been some stretches in there where Baylor's dominated, some stretches where Iowa State has dominated. It's been back and forth. Iowa State won last year, so the Baylor team that finished 2-7 last year, they were throwing into the end zone late in the game with a chance to tie or maybe go for 2 and win that game in Ames. So Baylor did really well up there last year, hoping to take that next step today.
Absolutely, and one thing that I like that the announcers of last week's game really talked about is we talk about the charisma of head coach Dave Aranda, but that's kind of continued into this program, and you're seeing that they're very business oriented. They don't get too high with their emotions or too low depending on how the game's going, and I think that's going to lend to a very even-keeled, very business professional team playing number 14 Iowa State here today. I
really like that about Coach Aranda, Brooke. He's got that, that sort of even-keeled nature. We've also seen in practice he can fire them up a little bit.
Yes,
we saw him on the sidelines. He was really in there in the huddle with them last week after Baylor got a big score against Kansas.
Yep.
He was joking that he got a headbutt a couple of weeks ago. But what stands out to me is he can clearly motivate, but he's got that ability to keep everyone on an even keel. You know, the leader sets the tone, and as you said, you love the tone he sets. Today's not going to be whatever happens. It's not going to be too big for him.
Absolutely, but we know who we don't want to be even-keeled, and that is the Baylor family. It's Baylor Family Weekend, so we have a bunch of our students and their families here to celebrate the Bears. Everybody's repping gold, and we want that stadium absolutely rocking when it comes to kickoff later at 2:30. We'll be right back with more of the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show right after this. Welcome back to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We had to do a little bit of rearranging here, especially for this Baylor football legend segment. We have Byron Landor joining us, but I do want to take a moment and welcome Elliot Coffey to the stage and let you you're here a little earlier than you usually are in the show.
That's right.
But there's a special reason for that. So we want to kind of hand it away to you and let you kind of jumpstart this interview before John takes it on.
Yeah, so you know you're old when the people that you lived with, people that you trained with, and your best friends are all of a sudden the Baylor football legends. So,
Time has flown by.
yeah, so I'm honored to be on stage with, like I said, one of my best friends, Byron Landor, the best safety I ever played with at Baylor, one of the most talented football players and one of the best men I know. And so glad to have you here, glad to have you on set. And, of course, we're going to sit here and sing your praises for a little bit, so don't let your head get too big.
All right, I'll try not to.
We also have some pretty, cool some pictures.
Oh, yeah, let's go to that. For those of you that are watching on television, watch this. I think Elliot helped us with maybe some pictures from when you guys were rooming together.
Yes.
So take a look at this. This will be great. Going back, what is this, 2009, 2010?
2010, yeah.
2009,
2010,
yeah. So we'll get to those pictures. But Byron Landor is our guest as our B Association Kelly Realtors Legend of the Game. All right, we start with the troops there.
Oh, my gosh.
There you go, and we'll get to some highlight video, which is good stuff. But Byron, welcome back, and congratulations on the honor.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting to be back. There were so many things. There were thoughts and there were hopes of what this campus would be like, what football would be like at Baylor University. And just coming back and having a chance to be here and be with my family here and Elliot and everyone else who I knew when I was here earlier. It's amazing to see what this campus has turned to, what this stadium is. It really makes me proudful to be a Baylor Bear and more importantly to be a legend here.
That's great. How'd you get to Baylor? What was that process like?
It was really interesting. When I committed to Baylor, Baylor was coming off a couple of 4 and 8 years. So I really wanted to go to a university and make a difference and make an impact. I had a mission to not be a number, but to be a legend. And at that point, obviously, I didn't know that foreshadowing.
It paid out.
But it did. So that's why I came. I mean, it was the hope and the mission and the vision of excellence and the commitment to the team. And that's really what I came here for. And thankfully, we were able to turn it around my senior year.
You know what I remember about you guys, what stands out the most, I think, is you broke the bowl drought. You got to a bowl game in 2010. What was that like? Was that a goal going into that season?
I think every season going into it, you hope and you dream that that's the year that you're going to make the change. And I know that it's always one of those things that you're battling for recruits, and sometimes it just takes that team to just get you over the edge to start getting those 3- and 4-star and 5-star recruits. So I know that was the mission of the coaching staff, was really just to get over the hurdle, beat a couple of those teams that we maybe have struggled with in the past. And I knew once we were able to do that, we would start being able to build depth. I mean, because that's really important when you're battling in the Big 12. I mean, these teams have depth. I mean, they've had the depth for years. So to break that mold, it really took a good team to kind of make that transition.
Very good. Elliot, what do you remember about that?
Yeah, man. I mean, every offseason from when I got here in July of 2007 all the way until, August of 2010 was all about make the bowl game. Yeah. Let's make a bowl game. That's all it was. And so, it's changed significantly now. We've won a couple of Big 12 championships. Of course, we have this on-campus stadium and really have competed, honestly, for a national championship in a couple rights over the few years. But, yeah, it was just about making a bowl game. And so we went out there against Kansas State and got that win. The next week we marched down there and spanked UT down there in Austin. I mean, it was a really great run. But, I mean, it's like I said, it was guys like Byron that had to, buckle down and really kind of break some barriers, things we hadn't been through. I mean, I still remember when we beat Colorado in Game 5 of that year, right? Like, we're in the stadium and we're losing it because we hadn't won 5 games in like 10 years or something like that. And so it was a really, really exciting time for all of us. And like I said, Byron played a huge part in that. Was really a leader.
Thank you.
Tell everybody what you're doing now. Where do you live?
Yeah, well, I actually live in Leander, Texas, so not too far from here. But I work for Canyon Creek Behavioral Health.
Okay.
So it's a brand new psychiatric facility located in Temple, Texas. So I commute in this area. I have a bunch of really good relationships still in the Waco area. So I stay local. I actually just moved from Missouri with my fiance a couple of years ago, but now we're actually in the area. So we love being in Central Texas. Love the weather here. Much warmer than Missouri. That's for sure.
That is for sure.
So absolutely.
Well, again, congratulations on being the Kelly Realtors B Association Legend of the Game. Are you a singer at all? Do you sing?
I am not.
Okay. Elliot, are you a singer?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Did you sing that? Oh, no, that's not. Okay.
Byron,
no,
Byron, if there's a singer in the group, it is Byron.
Here's why I ask, because today is Brooke Bednar's birthday.
Oh, we can sing happy birthday. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
I think I can get my voice together for happy birthday.
We're going to let the cupcakes do the singing for us. We're going to say happy birthday to Brooke.
Thank you so much.
Happy
birthday to you. Look.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
This is an inside joke, and with that, we'll leave it. We'll leave it with that, and then we'll go to break right after this. See you in a little bit.
Awesome.
Oh my. my goodness.
Oh, that's good.
Welcome back to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We have shifted seats again, and John is sticking around a little longer than usual this show because we want to visit with Cody Carlson. He's a former quarterback here for the Baylor Bears, and he's filling in for us so graciously because Seth Russell, our usual offensive analyst, is unable to be here with us. So, Cody, we really want to thank you for taking the time to visit with us. And
you bet.
John, thanks for sticking around.
Okay, yeah, John's the only one who remembers me. So.
Yeah, Elliot was saying going way back, right?
Yeah,
You and I can talk way back.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
We can do that. Yeah. And me more than you. But glad you're here. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here on Family Game Day.
It is Family Weekend, and appreciate you. Great memories of your time playing here. And what do you think about this team, this year's team so far?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a little bit of a throwback team.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Considering where Baylor has been, and you know, I'm really impressed. Of course, we're going to be tested today. There's no doubt. Everybody expects that. The team has enough experience, and I think you know, certainly enough great coaching and players to be able to be patient and take the opportunities when they come. But it's going to be it's always tight with Iowa State, and they're a great defense. So, you know, on the offensive side of the ball, we're going to have to be very patient. Defensive side of the ball, I mean, we've been very good for a while. So, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see where we stand.
You're jumping ahead here. We're going to talk about you a little bit.
Well,
then we're
only
gonna get
offense.
to the offense. He's like, nope, skip right over
you had to get someone in who remembered how to hand the ball, and that's kind of what I did well.
You're a man who can appreciate a good offensive line, right?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
You had a good one in front of you your time here, and this is a good offensive line this year.
It is, and they're very disciplined, and I think that that's the key for them is to continue to be disciplined.
Look at those glory days.
Commander Cody.
Look at that.
That was when the forward pass was invented. I think.
Right there.
Yeah, and they've done a great job, again, against competition that helps them get on track.
Right.
But now they're going to be tested because Iowa State is, very solid.
Hey, great highlights that we're running on television. I want to ask you this. We play BYU coming up October 16th.
Yeah.
You were involved in that game here, 1983. Great game. One of the great games ever in Baylor history. And was that the birth of the quarterback shuttle in that game?
Yeah, so it was my first game to play.
Okay.
Tom Mickey, who was my cohort, and he had played a few games the year before, a few plays actually,
Right.
and so neither one of us were experienced. So BYU is a very experienced team with Steve Young as a quarterback, a dynamic offense, and we had temperature on our favor.
Yeah,
Game
that's
time
right.
was about 120, and we just didn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think that was the key. We also had a very good running game. We had a strong offensive line and a very good defense as well. So.
All right, well, you talked a little bit about handing the ball off. That means you had some good running backs on your group. Derek, to bring you into this conversation, did you know that going into the last game, we only needed like 100 yards or whatever to surpass the total amount of offensive rushing yards that Baylor had last year? Last year on this show, we talked a lot about the defense because our offense struggled. This year, we are really seeing a dominant Baylor offense led by the run game, and now we've already surpassed that with 964 yards and 11 TDs so far this year. So I want to kind of get y'all's thoughts on the dominance of this running group and how that's making a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it starts up front, if I might, and then also, experienced running backs, very versatile running backs that are smart and disciplined, and it takes everyone, the receivers engaging as well and doing their job. It's been impressive, and I think it's been really good for the offense and for Gary to be able to settle in because of that.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Cody. As a young starting quarterback, he's played, but this is his first year as a starter. How much do you think that helps his development? How much maybe further is it along because other teams have to respect Abram Smith, Treston Ebner, and others back there?
Sure. No, I think it's critical for someone who has not, as you said, he's played and he's done well, but he's never been the guy. He is mature. He's intelligent. He's doing everything right now. He'll make mistakes. But how he recovers from those mistakes is going to be critical as well. I really think, certainly discipline is always important, fundamentals, but even the emotional patience and confidence that you're going to be able to deliver. And I think Gary's been around and had enough success to know that now.
Well, the running game is beneficial in numerous ways. But let's hear from head coach Dave Aranda on what he had to say and the impact of the run game so far.
It allows you to play complementary football, right? Get the run established, to have a play-action pass that looks like it and put people in conflict, and gives you the ability to play all four downs, because you're talking about 4th and 1 and a 4th and 2 as opposed to a 3rd and 13, And so I think it just gives you a more balanced, comprehensive approach to things.
A comprehensive approach that's allowing the Bears to play all four downs. So far, the Bears are leading the Big 12 in 4th down conversions with 6 of 7. They've only failed one time, John, and that was 4th and 17 in the final minutes of that Texas State game. We'll talk more offense. John, thanks for being with us and sticking around a little later than usual. We'll be right back with more offensive talk on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show right after this. welcome back to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. I'm Brooke Bednarz, Derek Smith, Cody Carlson filling in for Seth Russell. Thank you again for doing that. We are out here on Touchdown Alley as the Bears are gearing up to play number 14, Iowa State. The Cyclones are here for what's going to be a big defensive battle. But we're going to talk a little offense first because the Bears have come out and they've proven to be very successful so far this year, not just the run game. But let's start there. How about that? With none other than Air Ebner. Can we give him that
Ebner.
nickname?
I like that.
Air Ebner.
Well, he's really become that guy. You see him in the NFL a lot now, which you think of down the line. Elliott talked about that last week, maybe him playing to the next level someday. Cody, he's got a guy who you can hand off. He can run it up the middle. He can get outside. But he also is going to play a role in the passing game. We haven't seen that a lot, but he is the active leader among all NCAA running backs in terms of yards receiving.
Right. A lot of times I think last year he was the offense, right? It was Charlie scrambling, and it was Treston doing his thing, also in the return game. He's very versatile, very talented. I think he was very underrated and when he came out of high school, and he's proved to be a very hard worker. He runs so much stronger today than he did when he was a freshman. He's put on mass. He knows more about the game. He's been a great weapon for them.
Well, and I was able to visit with him a little bit this week, and one thing, we talked about is the fact that he decided to come back for this year. He had the opportunity and the decision really to decide, and when I asked him what led to that decision, he said it was just a bad taste in his mouth. Going 2-7, that is not how he wanted his final year here at Baylor to be. And so far, he's breaking records, and I'd say he made the right choice.
Absolutely. Well, certainly as a Baylor fan, we're glad he's back. But I kind of love that ownership that he and a lot of the veterans took in taking that next step. You talk to him, he's got that bad taste in his mouth. He didn't say, well, that's too bad. He stuck around to try to do something about it. And I think that speaks to the character of the guys who are on the roster, and that's going to have a trickle-down effect.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's not just him back there making a difference. Last game, we showed you the full circle story of Abram Smith. And so far, I don't know if you knew this, but Baylor is one of two schools. The only other one is Auburn. So we're in good company with a dynamic duo, so to speak, of running backs who have gone 100-plus yards every single game.
Yeah.
So talk about not just Treston making an impact, but also Abram Smith and the two of them together.
Right. I'm amazed with both of them. I mean, Treston coming back and playing another year is a great statement. He loves the culture here. He loves the coaches. He obviously felt like that, he could help the team, but also that another year could help him. Abram, what a versatile. I mean, someone to be able to be an outstanding player two ways, really, as a linebacker and a running back. We're seeing now, why Baylor liked him so much as a running back. He's very strong and very, very smart.
Absolutely. Well, last game, I know we've kind of been talking a little bit about the tight ends and trying to get them involved, and they did. First touchdown, Ben Sims. Second touchdown, Gavin Yates lined up like a fullback, but nonetheless made it into the end zone. What'd you like seeing that tight end group getting involved?
Well, I'm really excited to see that. We heard when Jeff Grimes came here from BYU, the tight end was a big part of the Cougars' offense that was one of the top in the country. Of course, their quarterback last year's playing in the NFL right now, the number 2 overall pick, and Zach Wilson, and part of that was because he could use every weapon out there. And I love seeing that with this group. When you get to the red zone, you can speak to this far better than I can, Cody, but how do things bunch up, and how much does each little wrinkle make it easier when you're playing against an Iowa State and it's 3rd and goal?
You bet. It's you have to have a versatile offense, but everybody has to be able to play power football as well when you get into that. I mean, it's very, very difficult to get yardage there. And so having those tight ends that are multidimensional, you don't know whether they're going to be, engaged in a block and part of the run offense or utilizing play action to be able to, release and off a block and be able to score a touchdown that way as well. So I think it's very important to engage them and to have them very engaged in the offense.
And, of course, you're a former quarterback, so we saved the quarterback position to talk about last. But let's just talk a little bit more about Gary Bohannon. We talk a lot about the success of the run game, but Gary is actually leading the Big 12 in pass efficiency.
Yeah, so it's amazing how the game has changed and the skills have changed, of course. Gary is a very skilled thrower of the football. He also is mobile. He's strong. He makes really good decisions. He's done that so far. Again, today he's going to be tested right? There's going to be some bad plays. There's going to be times when, they haven't given up a sack yet, the offensive line. Today, he's going to have some pressure probably at various points. And so for him to be able to hang in there, to be poised, to continue to make great decisions, which he has done up to this point, I'm really looking forward to that, and I think he's going to come through with flying colors.
And final question for you here today. I actually wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I didn't get it wrong. But I want your thoughts on the fact that Gary Bohannon only needs 59 yards rushing today in order to tie yourself for 9th most rushing yards by a quarterback in Baylor history. What are your thoughts on that?
Go, Gary. Go, Gary. Yeah, I was I played on some great teams, and it was a lot of fun. And so that surprised me when I saw that note that I was not a great runner. But sometimes when you run for your life, you rack up some yards as well.
Well, hopefully Gary's not running for his life and our offensive line takes care of business. But we will have more. We'll switch over and talk a little bit of Baylor defense as they gear up for number 14, Iowa State, right after this break.
Winning with character means that you put yourself in the best spot to win by your preparation, by how you do things, how you act on and off the field.
To win with character means play the sport the right way, clean, no penalties, and just playing the sport a way that fans and your parents would be proud to watch.
I think winning with character means that you can't make compromises in being a good football team, but not having character and having values off the field. I think it all starts with what you do off the field and how you treat other people, how our culture is on the team. So you can't compromise that with winning games. So it all starts with having great character off the field, and then winning is just a follow-up from doing that.
Winning with character means winning the right way, not by doing all the stuff on the side or doing anything like that. It's doing the hard work now, doing it the right way, and giving it all you have.
Winning with character, that is the second of the Be Uncommon video series. If you weren't here, I suggest going back on social media for Baylor football and Baylor athletics and looking up the Baylor standard and what it means to be uncommon. But win with character is one of those. Elliot, we are glad to have you back on the show with us. Normally we're introducing you for the first time.
Yeah.
But, just to have a coach talk about win with character, what are your thoughts on that? Because it's not just go out there and win, but it truly means here at Baylor how you win.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and I think we should make this a staple of the conversation every week, right, is how we're winning these football games. I'm blown away by the character of these players. You see it by the way that they play the game, but also how you hear people around the city that interact with them. It's been great to hear it. I really like it.
Well, I did ask Coach Aranda. We talked a little bit about win with character, and while that is very important and something that they do talk about and emphasize a lot, Coach Aranda said that maybe we needed another phrase, something like, I don't know, pound the rock. Here's why he says this team pounds the rock.
I don't know. I think some of the coaches I've talked to have mentioned that, and they've said that kind of in passing, and it just felt like process-wise that just fit everything we're doing. We've talked about like win with character, and there's times where you're in if you're in the fourth quarter and you make a tackle on the sideline, you're not going to go win with character, So you need something a little bit stronger. And so I just felt like the pound the rock really kind of fit everything we've been trying to be about.
Pound the rock. We don't want to be like win with character.
Win with character. Go make a tackle.
I loved the honesty of that answer. That's exactly what you want to hear from your head football coach. And today we're going to have a lot of pound the rock moments, Elliot, because it is the battle of the Big 12 top defenses here between Baylor and Iowa State.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I loved when you asked that question in the press conference this week because pound the rock, you saw him posture up a little bit and say, we need to pound the rock. And that's right. I mean, this is an Iowa State defense that the way that he describes it's that 3-3 stack, right? You have really big defensive linemen, particularly for this conference. You got big linebackers. They're downhill. You're going to see them, come right at us. We haven't seen that yet. And then you look at our defense. Our defense has a heck of a guy there in the middle. You've got fast linebackers on the outside. And so if you look across these two defenses, you're going to see a lot of similarities in their intensity, but it's going to be a big game.
You look at what Iowa State does. One thing we've talked about is that defensive line today. When you've got Brock Purdy, when you've got Breece Hall, who led the nation in rushing yardage last year, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. What are you going to be watching today from really that Baylor front line that I think even has room to grow?
Yeah, I think gap integrity is what I'm looking for because Breece Hall's game is really kind of getting people to overcommit to a certain side of the field and then cut back. Because he's so strong, he's so elusive, and he's got a lot of explosion as well. And so if he can get people to overcommit, you got to watch those cutback lanes because once you're one-on-one with him in the open field, he's the hardest player in the Big 12 to tackle. And so I'm excited to see what we do, with that gap integrity and how we wrap up and gang tackle.
You talked about that guy right up in the front in the middle. That's Apu Ika, who Coach Aranda, exactly. He said it is time. We've had a little bit of ups and downs with his game. And last week when Coach Aranda was asked about it, it was, why is he struggling maybe? And it was said that Kansas was really running downfield at him. But Iowa State plays a little bit more of an offense like Baylor, which is what he sees all the time, where he's going to be able to get through there and really run them over, cause trouble, maybe even have to be doubled up, and then that's going to open somebody else to get that blitz and get after Breece Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. That wide zone game, right? See him stretch a little bit when it's straight downhill. We've seen that maybe isn't the best, course of action. I'm sure Iowa State's seen the film too, so maybe we see a little bit more than we're used to. But yeah, I mean, I see with that a lot of that zone, that's an opportunity for him to go in there and just blow the plays up. You're a big dude. You can get up there and be physical, and so I think we're all excited to see what he does here today.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit of numbers right here before we go to break. Iowa State, we said this is the battle of the top two Big 12 defenses. The area that Iowa State leads in is just total overall yardage that they allow their teams, their opponents that they're playing to gain. However, Baylor, when you look at third down conversions, we're holding teams to only 29%. When you're talking about scoring, it's only 11 points per game. So I'm very excited to see how this kind of all breaks down.
It really does go back to what we're talking about, that test. Today's a test for Baylor because they've passed each test so far, but you've got better players, you've got more experience in Iowa State, and I'm excited to see that. By the same token, Iowa State's proven you get pressure on Brock Purdy, you can make him make mistakes. And if they can make him make mistakes today, that bodes really well for a home win.
I like the sound of that. Well, we will be right back with more of the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show, talking defense and the battle of the top 2 Big 12 defenses right after this. Elliot, over the break, you said a key for the Bears today will be to get pressure on Brock Purdy and hopefully, for the Bears' sake, cause a couple of turnovers.
Yeah.
Bears have 22 takeaways in just 12 games under Aranda.
Yeah, they do.
I think it's possible. Take 3. That's a phrase we all know.
That's right.
How's it going to be? What do they need to do in order to get those takeaways this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need a pass rush. Like, that's maybe the one area of this defense that we're looking to see kind of develop right now is the defensive line kind of coming together. So we get a good pass rush, get pressure on Purdy early. We've played him enough to know what he does when there's pressure on him, right? He starts throwing hero balls up there, and that puts our secondary in a position to make plays. And so if you can get pressure on him early and then mix up a couple different looks where he's confused as to what he's seeing, he'll throw that ball up and he'll give us an opportunity. Not to mention Breece Hall, who we talked about, we think is the best running back in the conference, coughed up a pretty crucial ball against Iowa in week 1, and so they can turn the ball over and we can create them.
And I know someone that capitalizes on some takeaways.
Right off the bat this year, in fact.
Right off the bat this year, absolutely. And now he's looking to break the heart of Brock Purdy.
Snap back to Bender. Dances, passes in, nearly intercepted. Oh, he would have walked in for a touchdown, but he dropped it.
That play has haunted JT Woods for the last 4 years.
It's just me and 15 yards to the end zone, and I just dropped the ball. It's one I wish I could have back.
Let's fast forward to fall camp of 2019, when Woods goes from heartbroken to heartbreaker.
Me and Graylin Arnold had a whole bunch of interceptions throughout fall camp. And so it was just kind of a joke between me and Coach McGuire. I break the hearts of quarterbacks I'm the HBK.
The nickname stuck.
I have it tatted on me. It's really a big part of who I am at Baylor. It's kind of like my persona on the field. Somebody's like, come on, HBK, we need one. That's a whole different person than if you're talking about Jalen Terrell Woods or Jalen Woods. It's just kind of like a person that I play into.
And while he's been causing trouble for quarterbacks his entire career, the Heartbreak Kid finally got a chance to make up for that dropped interception in the first game of his senior season.
I was like, okay, I'm right here. He's really throwing me the ball. I really got to make this play. And it was just kind of like a surreal moment. It almost felt like a dream. It didn't even feel real. Like I blinked and I was on the 2-yard line walking into the end zone.
That was HBK's first collegiate touchdown. But he didn't stop there. The Heartbreak Kid is breaking hearts and records this year.
And then just out of nowhere, like I see a little brown thing in the corner of my eye, and I peek and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the ball.
And he lost the football, and it's scooped and picked up.
A 97-yard fumble return for a touchdown. That is the longest fumble return in school history.
J.T. Woods, an exclamation point for Baylor.
You know, you kind of hear the crowd roar, and then like, you know, I'm turning around running and Christian gives me a high five. And then Zay, you know, picking me up, like just all that. That's stuff that DBs don't really get to experience. It's funny, like we always joke, especially DBs, like we always joke about what celebrations we're gonna do when we make plays. So like the whole heart thing is like, you know, the HBK. And then I wanted to like incorporate something different every year. So like last year I kind of did this. And then so like this year I just started blowing kisses to everybody, just showing all the love that I have. But not for quarterbacks, so I'm breaking your heart.
I love that story. You know I had to do it. You know I had to do it. JT Woods, such a great kid, super smiley, and love that he took the time to share that story. So now we know a little bit of the history when we see that celebration, hopefully a couple of times today as we create those turnovers. But I do want to share one story that I did not get to include in that, and it was as he got that 97-yard fumble recovery, he is booking it down the sideline, and what is right in front of him? None other than the big Baylor Vision video board. And he told me he was watching that, and the whole time he's like, high and tight, thinking of what Coach Juice talks to those running backs about. He's like, I gotta have proper run form, high and tight.
4 points of pressure, baby. There you go.
He was like, there are going to be eyes on me this whole time, and he was watching himself seeing all the sea of green, and was like, oh, I'm good, you know.
Yeah, right.
But he did say if that had been his first touchdown, and he hadn't gotten the one at Texas State, he said we probably would have seen him running a little bit quicker into that end zone. So
track speed.
Just a fun little tidbit that we didn't get to include, unfortunately, but high and tight right there.
Yeah, there you go.
There was no one else in the frame once he got that. He was wide open.
Some serious kind of speed.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you know, you look at what he's done. You know, he's had defensive touchdowns 2 weeks in a row prior to the Kansas game. Jalen Petrie did that last year. In fact, against Iowa State, he had an interception return for a touchdown last year. As we talk about the defenses, it should be based on what's on paper. You know, it's going to be a day that points aren't easy to come by.
Yeah.
Not saying anything particularly novel here, but if you can flip the field, if you can steal a quick 7 in a game like this, give your offense a short field with which to work, it makes such a difference in these Big 12 games that already this year look like we're going to have a lot of close games in this conference.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about it here in a little bit. When you look at the field position game that we're looking at today, the biggest flips you're going to see in field position are on turnovers and on special teams. Because when we're playing defense out here, it's going to be a game of inches, right? It's going to be super tight on both sides of the ball, but if we can create a couple opportunities to get out there, whether it's on special teams or on turnovers, I think you're right. I think that's the difference in what happens here today.
Well, we've talked a little bit. I know we had the fumble recovery, but also Baylor defense only allowing, 111 passing yards so far per game. That's really shutting down that, which is going to make, that's when we talk about the secondary. And guys just like JT Woods, that's going to put a lot of extra pressure on Brock Purdy today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if he's going to have to go out there and win the game with his arm, that's not going to happen. So we, as far as the secondary, I think that was maybe a question mark we had coming into the season. But with the way that they've played up to this point this year, with Kalen Barnes going off on one side, Raleigh Tejada's been consistent. Phenomenal job by the defense in the secondary.
All right, well, we will be back with Inside the Numbers, break down a couple of different stats for you as we wrap up the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show and get ready for kickoff between number 14, Iowa State, and your Baylor Bears. Welcome back to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. It is a great day out here on Touchdown Alley. A little toasty, but that's not going to stop all of us from celebrating this gold out. Hopefully a Baylor win out at McLean today at 2:30. We are grateful to have Cody Carlson filling in for Seth Russell. We still have Elliot Coffey here to talk some defense, and I'm going to hand it over to Derek Smith so we can go inside the numbers.
Well, inside the numbers, excited about this one today because obviously this is a matchup that is strength against strength in some ways. You've got the Big 12's top rushing offense through 3 games in Baylor. You got the Big 12's top rushing defense in Iowa State, and the numbers are pretty stark. Baylor is averaging 321 rushing yards per game, over 7 yards per carry. Iowa State's giving up less than 50 yards per game and 1.5 yards per carry. Cody, I want to start with you. From your standpoint, how do things, from an offensive standpoint, when things pick up against a defense like Iowa State, what are some things you need to do to maintain the success you had against the Texas Southerns and Texas States of the world?
Right.
Recognize that it might not come as easy, but find a way to make it work for you.
Yeah, I think expecting that it's going to be tough, right? That's the first thing. And they're smart enough, they're experienced enough to know. And then the patience. Certainly, they're going to have to incorporate every weapon in the offense. We have a receiving core that has been, R.J. Sneed has been very consistent. He's a big physical receiver that they'll utilize. Tyquan Thornton has been a little less consistent. He's going to have to be more physical. He's going to have to, get involved in the offense as well. So they're going to have multi-dimensional approach to it, but they're also going to have to be very patient and protect the quarterback, of course. That's always the key, right?
There you go. Yeah. There you go. And I'm on the other side of him, like, get the quarterback.
Well, Elliot, Baylor's been very balanced so far. In fact, it's been a good balance in the sense that every game thus far, Baylor's run the ball more than 40 times, pass the ball less than 30 times. As a defensive player, what does that tell you about the kind of day you need to have?
Oof, man, if you're running the ball more than you're throwing the ball, that means you don't have to throw the ball. That means you're throwing the ball when you want to, which means that you have multi-dimensional, Cody, as you were mentioning.
That's
there earlier,
right.
Right? So if you can run the ball and you can control the clock the way that you want to, you can run your offense the way that you want to, that means that on the defensive side of the ball that you're not doing something right. And so when you're on the defense on the Baylor defense and you're running the ball 40 times, that means you get a break. That means that you're running the ball.
Critical.
That means that you're on the field for a long time and that your big boys up front are going to be well rested when you go out there, get off the field on 3rd down, and they can continue it. And so things are going in your favor when you're running the ball a lot like that.
Well, the way he describes it sounds sure like, the reliable, violent offense that Coach Grimes brought here from BYU is working.
Absolutely. I'm intrigued by that. What does that phrase mean to you, Cody? When we talk about reliable and violent, what does that say to you as a quarterback?
I don't know what he's talking about there. No, I think he's actually talking about their consistency. He can depend upon them to execute the game plan, right? Their teammates can depend upon them to not make mistakes. But they're also physical. They want to control the line of scrimmage. They want to make it a short game. They also don't, Iowa State has the capability of also controlling the pace of the game. Baylor wants to take that advantage away from them. I think it's going to be great that we have the home field advantage in this game. They're going to have to really focus in, though, because the speed of the game is going to change, and the pressure and the nerves are going to be there as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how the game starts.
One thing that stood out to me real quick before we hear from you is you said you're really glad we have the home field advantage, and that's one thing that Coach Aranda made sure to point out this week when talking about what he's hoping from this Baylor crowd today as they're all wearing gold, but that they truly make a difference because this year home games are back to being an advantage after last year where we barely had any fans, if at all. And so it's really, that home field advantage today I think is going to be felt more than Coach Aranda's probably ever experienced here so far at Baylor.
Yeah, and I think if we talked about it a little bit earlier on, but it's a little toasty out here today.
It is a little toasty.
We consistently play Iowa State at home during the day when it's a little bit warmer, and it's tougher on them. You see in the fourth quarter,
it
wears on them a little bit,
This is the earliest in the season we have ever played Iowa State, actually.
And
normally it's always later, like you said.
Exactly, right? It's easy to go to the indoor and crank the AC on. It's hard to walk outside and simulate 95 degrees, right? And so excited absolutely to see it there. But I mean, I couldn't get with you more. I mean, I think we always look at kind of 3 areas, right? Time of possession, you look at time that we ran the ball and the amount of plays that you run, because you got to stay fresh up front. That's who's really going to have the advantage, I think, in the game today, is who's ever big men up front on defense get the most time to rest are going to have the most success. That's just how this thing boils down.
That's
right.
right.
So I think that's what we're going to watch here today.
Well, yeah, that's a great point too. Let's keep our defense off the field for a long time. If Iowa State, if they do get a big break, get a big drive with Charlie Kohler, with Brees Hall, they got a lot of weapons out there.
Right?
It's going to happen. They're going to get their points, but if you can keep them from those long drives, and if the offense can put them together, that's a real recipe for success.
Well, hopefully the Bears come away with more points. We want to thank you all for joining us today out here on Touchdown Alley for the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We're going to send it back upstairs to John Morris, and he'll take it away on radio. But we want to thank you, Cody. Thank you again for joining us. Elliot, as always, it's been great. Baylor is taking on number 14 Iowa State in the battle of the top 2 Big 12 defenses. Thanks again, and Sic 'em Bears.
This has been a presentation from Learfield,